and gallery. Welcome to the August meeting of Council. If I could begin with the statement of acknowledgement. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting. We pay our respects to their elders and to elders from other communities who may be here today. I won't continue on the elder line, Irwin, because that would probably be rude, but welcome to the first venturers of Barranduda. We've got quite a crew of you guys in here tonight, so welcome to the council meeting. Item 3 is apologies and requests for leave of absence. Is there any? Nope. Item 4 is declarations under acts, regulations, codes and local laws.
Madam Mayor, councillors, persons are reminded that any audio, video or recording devices are not permitted unless previous permission has been gained from the chair and or council.
At item 4, we also have a late item here for that has been put to us to take into tonight. So with the agreement of council, it's proposed to introduce the late item of urgent business. It will come in under ordinary business, not urgent business. And it is the intention to enter a lease at Logic Wodonga for Wodonga Solar Power Proprietary Limited. It will be numbered 8.13. Councillors, that the recommendation is there. We have a piece of paper with that on. Can I have someone move to accept that as a late item? Thank you, Councillor Watson. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any commentary, Councillor Watson? No? Councillor Lowe? Others? Councillors, that is the recommendation that we accept the late item. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 5 is declarations by councillors of any conflict of interest. Councillor Mildren, you can kick off.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a conflict in item 9.3 in reference to the Richardson Park issue and the competitive services.
Yes, I have 3. I have one for 8.10 community impact grants, and I have a conflict of interest for 9.1 the planning report and 9.2 the building report.
As there's a few, Councillor Hall, would you please make sure you wave madly at me so I don't miss any of those? There's no others tonight? No. Thank you. Item 6 is confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. The recommendation is there on the bottom of page 3. Can I have someone move that? Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Does anybody need to speak against that? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 7 is delegates' report, of which there is nil. Item 8.1 is 2018 General Revaluation. The recommendation is there on page 12. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Is there any commentary? No. Councillor Bennett. Anybody else wish to speak to that item? No. Councillor's motion is there. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.2 is occupational health and safety policy. Recommendation is on page 15. Can I have someone move that? Thank you. Was that a hand up, Councillor Mildren?
Madam Mayor, can we modify the recommendation to exchange the word approved for adopted? Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we don't have these sort of policies, particularly occupational health and safety policies, we get slugged pretty hard by other means through insurances and a whole range of things. Some people have argued that a lot of the stuff in this is going over the top and we've gone too far with a lot of this stuff, but it's irrelevant really. If we don't have these sort of policies in place, we pay for it, so hence supporting the motion.
Yeah, it was also a requirement by MAV that we had this policy in place. So obviously going under the MAV scheme that looks after a lot of councils, we get a better rate as well, yeah, with our insurance. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other council want to speak to this? No. Back to you, Councillor Mildren. Anything for close? Councillor's motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.3 is the tender. We have a whole swathe of these that will make the engineer on my right side very excited. 8.3 is tender for pavements, digouts and stabilisation. The recommendation is there on page 24. Can I have someone move this? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Watson. Any comments? No. Councillor Watson?
Well, Madam Mayor, just very briefly, that one of the things we're judged on in the city is our potholes and things like that. So this is one way of making sure that we keep our roads up to standard with repairs and maintenance.
Fair comment. Is there any other commentary from any other councillors? Nope. Councillor Lowe, nothing. Councillor's motion is before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Almost could have done all these together. 8.4 is the tender for minor and miscellaneous reseal preparation works. The recommendation is there on page 31. Can I have someone move again? Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Lowe.
Should have a strong arm by the end of the night, that's for sure. One of the things we do in our tender process is we have a evaluation ad to give back to the community. And I just noticed this particular tender that we're voting on tonight, Wines Asphalting, is a supporter of Wodonga Cricket Club, but also Belvoir Special School. So it's good to see tenderers that we may award tenders to giving back to our community. Thank you.
Is there any other councillors? And speaking of Belvoir, I do know that Councillor Watson attended the fantastic Deb Ball the other night at Belvoir, a very special occasion. Councillors, the motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.5, tender for asphalt program 2018-19. Recommendation is on page 38. Do you want to use that arm again, Councillor Lowe? Thank you. Second, thank you, Councillor Watson. Any comments? Other councillors? No, these are exciting things. Just to probably explain a little bit just to the gallery, anybody sitting out there, is a lot of this preparatory work is done through our budget process. So councillors have seen this stuff. This is about awarding tenders and actually allocating this work. So that money already sits in those budgets and have been robustly discussed and looked at, etc. So just so people know, this is about a process. So councillors, motion is there before us. You want to? Oh, you do want to say? Sorry, Councillor Lowe.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'll just add to what you're saying, and that's for the benefit of the Scouts and Adventurers, in the audience tonight, that Downer last year opened a new part of their plant. They're a local organisation, but a national company, and they have started recycling ink cartridges out of printer machines and stuff like that as part of a way of renewing that energy. So I thought it'd be worthy of note for you. Thank you.
I remember being quite surprised by that fact as well at the time. Councillors, motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.6, tender for High Street South landscape works design, construct and install parking arbours and bollards. The recommendation is there on page 44. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Watson, any comments?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to make this is just a process what we've got to do, but the feedback that we've had from everything that was done on the north side just recently, it just continues to come into this city. So hopefully that this tender and when this project's finished will be as of higher standard as the north end.
Any other councillors comment? Nope. Councillor Watson, you didn't want anything for close? Thank you. Councillors, motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.7 is tender for High Street South reconstruction featuring lighting design, electrical supply and installation. This is the large part of the tender. The recommendation is there on page 51. Can I have someone move it? Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Bennett.
I was at a school talking the other day, and we were talking about those the new roadworks that have finished recently, and lots of the kids were saying that the feature lighting was the best part of that one. It just really, it made it look like Melbourne. It made it look like, you know, it was exciting and things were happening. So, yay.
So I thought I'd just comment that in the last few motions we've got through $1.85 million of ratepayers' money, all through tender processes and all best value for money we would hope.
Councillors, I reckon it's a pretty exciting day seeing that last tender go through, given the lengthy process. I remember being on, and the CEO will remember too, very vividly, being on the High Street Reference Group for 2 years, meeting every Tuesday, and the considerable work that was done by community and council for a very long period of time. So it's pretty exciting to see this last stretch, this last component being done in our city, and it will kick off in January. So, which the weather clearly will be better, but it is a pretty exciting time. I know that we now work with the tenderers to really look at those timeframes, reduce as much impact as we can on community and traders, so that this becomes another success and a huge milestone for this city, but also opens up a lot of opportunity for businesses to get in there and really look spectacular. And I know that I was out speaking with some of the traders down this southern end just the other week, and I know that they're already thinking about how they're going to get in and redo their shop so that, you know, when it reopens to the street, that they're actually new and fresh and reinvigorated, because they're actually excited about the future. So I think that's a really great thing. Back to Councillor Bennett for any close. Councillors, motion is before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.8 is the transfer of the Cafe Grove lease. The recommendation is on page 54. Can I have someone move that, please? Thanks, Councillor Watson. Thanks, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Watson?
Madam Mayor, this agenda item has been asked by the current people who are leasing it on Crown land. The actual building is on Crown land. For that current owner wanting to transfer or sell the lease, that he needs this document. So it's basically a formality to go forward for him to exchange his lease.
Yeah, it's probably worthy of note. It's transfer of lease is due to sale of a business, and it's part of process to have that done. In saying that, I'd just like to thank Trevor and his team, the current owner and operators of Cafe Grove, and we look forward to the new owners taking it over and seeing what they bring to the new vibrant city heart.
Thank you. Councillors, any other comment? Councillor Hall, Councillor Mildred? No. Back to you, Councillor Watson. Is there any close? No. Councillors, motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.9 is the intention to enter into lease with the Albury Wodonga Incorporated. The large recommendation is there on page 59. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you. Councillor Lowe. Second, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Lowe.
Okay. I was just going to say, seeing as I got to open that field, I feel some sort of little attachment to it. I did notice when I was there, originally it was designed for 2 hockey fields, but we've got one plonked in the middle of it, and we've replaced it with another one plonked in the middle of it. So maybe in 20 years' time, we might put 2 fields in there or not. Anyway, we need a lease because they need a 20-year lease for the ground, which has got a 20-year lifespan. It has to go out to tender. This lease covers the cost of that, so it's all good, hopefully.
Madam Mayor, Hockey Albury Wodonga, and I acknowledge, I think it's the chair of Hockey Albury Wodonga in the audience tonight, Bert Eastoe, is that the hockey club, Albury Wodonga Hockey, has put a large investment into our city to continue hockey at grade level 1 or grade 1, A grade hockey, which we couldn't play until this new surface was put on the current turf. So I congratulate Hockey Albury Wodonga and the hard work of the Wodonga Hockey Club and our city as well, who've helped contribute to make this happen. So please, Deb Madrip, take that back to all the team, but for what occurred there, but also if this recommendation gets up, to give a bit of faith for Hockey Albury Wodonga to continue on playing hockey for our junior and senior levels.
Any other councillors? Any comments? Thank you for saying those comments, Councillor Watson, because there has been huge recent investment down there, and it doesn't happen without all that fantastic community work to get it to that point, but also they really rolled up their sleeves and got in there, and it looks fantastic. It really does look pretty spectacular down there. Back to you, Councillor Lowe, for some close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree it's a process. We've made a large investment, and thank you to Albury Wodonga and also the volunteers at Wodonga Hockey Club and the amount of money that they've saved over the years to help contribute to this, both in monetary value and also in kind work down there. This is another one of those playing surfaces and fields that not only services our local community, but the outside regions as well. I know Beechworth Hockey Club train there a couple of nights a week, I'm pretty sure as well. So I noticed in part of the conditions to having a look at mini warm-up fields and a new clubhouse, and I think that would be much appreciated sooner rather than later for those guys that have committed down there. So I look forward to seeing what Hockey Albury Wodonga does. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 8.10 is there. The recommendation sits there on page 64, but councillors, that is actually council to make a determination. So it would need to be put as a motion to either adopt or... Pardon? Oh, yes, Councillor Hall, you have a conflict. Sorry, excuse me. Councillors, I'm just trying to figure out some suggested wording so that this motion can be put. And
Yeah,
yep.
I think that's fine.
No, it's not.
No?
Governance officer has just told me
What
that
is
it needs to be accepted.
No, that's what I mean. That's what you're doing. That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Councillor Lowe, Councillor Mildren, somebody. Thank you. Sorry.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move a motion that we approve all the applications on what is at item 8.10 to be approved. As recommended. Thank you, Councillor Mayor.
There's two components to that, Councillor Watson. There's the impact grants and there is the partnership and applications. Do you want those done together or would you like that separated? Separate? So, councillors, the recommendation is that council accept the community impact grants as recommended as number one, and that council accept the community partnership grant applications as recommended as item 2. Is everyone clear with that? And are you comfortable? Is that enough for us to get that as a motion? So I'll say that again. Item 1 is that council accepts the community impact grants as recommended. Item 2 is that council accepts the community partnership grant applications as, the community partnership grants as recommended. Yes? So, Councillor Watson, are you happy to, that what you would like to move?
Yes, I'm happy
to move it. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bennett. Councillor Watson, over to you to discuss.
Madam Mayor, we have a line item budget figure each year in our budget for these grants. All these figures, all these applications have gone through a vigorous process to get to this stage, and I recommend that we put this forward for all the ones in the report to be accepted.
No problem. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
All right, so last time this came up, I voted against it, and I'm going to do that again, the same thing again. There are a bunch of worthy community projects here. Some of them have a dollar return to the community that might even be within reach of my definition of council's role. However, on principle, I oppose the existence of these grants. It's ratepayers' money we're spending, other people's money. So there it is. I won't vote to spend ratepayers' money on these grants. It's not council's role to do it. Ratepayers can spend their own money on the things that they support.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These are always difficult things, and I think there's a place for some grants to happen in relation to organisations that occupy or manage council facilities, where there's benefits direct to the community that are directly associated with the role of council. And I think there's a number of matters that are recommended for approval in this document tonight that I think step outside that. So, and I think even there's things that I believe step outside the interpretation of our policy. I accept that that's a matter of interpretation to different people, and different people have different views. My view is that I see a number of these things that step outside that boundary. Now, having said all that, I'm quite certain that all of these activities and things that have requested funding are worthy organisations and do wonderful work and so on in the fields that they operate in, but I just don't see them as having a direct impact to council's role, and I think that it's using ratepayers' money in manners that, in my opinion, do not reflect what council should be doing. So in that context, I propose to vote against the motion.
I think for me what's unequivocal is we are absolutely legislated to perform the role around the support and encouragement around the health and well-being of our entire community. And while, yes, some of these organisations, these community groups are supported by fundraising and by philanthropy within our community, I think we can't fail to recognise that we do have this role. And yes, it is different to roads, rates and rubbish, but we are legislated. This is part of our role. I think the other component for me, and Councillor Watson, you've already touched on this, is this goes through a pretty rigorous process in terms of understanding exactly what each of these items are. We get a summary and we do have a budgetary item. I also look at it and in my own mind say, if we don't support some of these items, if we don't continue to see our community groups step forward and support, in many instances, some of the most vulnerable areas of our community, ultimately the cost to community is actually far greater. It's far greater to the city, to the community, to its people, and that can be simply because the outcomes of that are going to be achieved through these programs step in and are proactive rather than waiting till the wheels fall off. So we have, my belief, in direct contrast to Councillor Mildren, is that we actually have a role in this. Is it always completely cut and dried and black and white? No, it's not. But there's so many groups out there that step up and actually help support us in our role, but most importantly help support our community. So I absolutely continue to support the community impact grants, because that dollar, the multiplier effect, when you see what it does to those community groups, it goes so far. It seriously goes so far. And so I do challenge our councillors to get out there and actually go and see some of these programs and experience some of that and get a real appreciation for it. Councillor Bennett, you have reserved your right. Over to you.
Thank you. So on page 61, it outlines the criteria for the community grants, and one of them is that the project has to align with the council plan. And obviously everything in the council plan is council business. So for these projects to apply and get through, they actually have to align with the council plan. It's good to note that most of these projects are actually contributing to them, so they contribute themselves, so that whether it be through their own money that they fundraised, volunteer hours or in-kind support. A few of them have been knocked back, and some of the reasons are that they are applying for the grant to cover wages, but we're really clear in the criteria that it can't cover wages. So there's some great projects in there, but they don't quite meet the criteria. I had two questions just to Officer Mudra. Do the applicants, before they apply, do they have to talk to a officer at council to sort of flesh out what they're going to apply for?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the first step in the process is that they must contact council. What we do is we allocate or assign a council liaison officer to that applicant, and that council liaison officer then works with the applicant through the whole process. If they have any questions or they need any assistance, that council liaison officer is there, and they are generally experts in whatever the project is about. So if it's about arts and culture, then it would be someone from our arts and culture team. If it's the environment, it would be someone from Parks and Gardens. So that council liaison officer stays with them right through the whole process, so they're only dealing with one person.
And just one last question, and a few more comments. So do all the applicants get, the unsuccessful applicants get constructive feedback around, we can't fund this, but have you tried so-and-so?
Sure, it's the same council liaison officer who contacts the applicant and talks through the reasons why the application wasn't successful, and then does give them some help as to where they might be able to go to get some further assistance. There might be other funding agencies out there that they can apply for. And then also we follow up with a written response to their application as well.
And just some final comments. In the time that I've been involved with council, and many moons ago I was involved in administering some grants at council, certainly the amount that council has allocated to community grants has been drastically cut. So we used to give a lot more money and we've really refined that. Also, in terms of council's feedback in that we shouldn't be giving ratepayers money to community grants, I would encourage these councillors, to the people that they're talking to, that they've heard this feedback from. I've never once heard that feedback. I would say to them, advise them, maybe we could suggest to them in our yearly budget consultation that they put a submission in saying, well, maybe we shouldn't look at doing community grants. Because I've never once heard that feedback, but if people in our community are thinking we shouldn't do community grants, there's a great time for us for them to let us know that.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Some terrific questions. Back to you, Councillor Watson. Anything for close?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Once again, the process, if we, and I back up Councillor Bennett's comments there, that if people aren't wanting these grants to be spent, then therefore there's a process at budget time and also council planning time, the council plan. Could I just sort of make mention on a couple of things that these, if successful tonight, like the Wodonga Seniors Christmas lunch, for our senior cits, that's one of those really special days that our community that worked so hard in this city get some reward on Christmas. And also one of our biggest issues in our community is drownings and open swimming, where we have the Hume Weir, we have the Murray River, we have the Wodonga Creek, and many other places that there's open water. And there's point number 8, Life Saving Victoria. Just really worthwhile community initiatives and training and awareness. So the grants are so important to our whole of community.
Thank you, councillors. Some good discussion. Councillors, the recommendation has been put. Does anybody need me to read that out again, or are you all comfortable? Yep. Councillor's motion is there. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Could you please? Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Item 8.11, donation request from city to city. The recommendation is there on page 75. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I get some clarification as to the purpose of the actual donation? Does this cover the in-kind components that council ordinarily does with this project, or is this over and above that in-kind amount? Is this a monetary donation?
They've requested a monetary donation. Generally what happens is they do put it in with their administrative costs. So if it's to hire the cube, for example, if that's where the race is finishing, if they need it for traffic management, then it goes towards what we would say would be the overheads in running the event. So it's $3,000 they're requesting to go towards the running of the event. No, it's cash.
It's cash, yeah.
Go through you, Madam Mayor. The only thing that we would assist them with is if they needed advice. So with a lot of the events, they'll come to council and ask our event team just for some advice. It might be the layout of the event, so what roads they run through, the use of summer councils, so it might be around Assumption Gardens, for example. So it's generally just the advice that our event team give. Yeah, but they do all of that out of the money that they raise. They pay for the organising. So,
Super, thank you. Thank you, councillors, for enabling that. Councillors, there is a recommendation suggested on page 75. It's actually not a recommendation. So if someone moves it, it will need to have the words, instead of make a determination, will it award or will accept the donation request. Should we move to accept it? If we don't, it will be will not award. So it will be will award or will not award. Do I have someone move? You will. Lowe will move that the council will award the donation request from city to city of $3,000. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Lowe, any comments?
Fun runs in general are on the decline, and this city to city is one of the only fun runs that's actually increasing its participation. So it shows that our community is 100% behind this, and all the funds stay within our region and all support our Albury Wodonga health system. So this is, we just touched on before whether things are good for community and, you know, how do we put a dollar value on certain things. This not only brings money to the Albury Wodonga health system, this fun run also lands and finishes dead smack in the centre of our town, feeding our coffee shops and our eateries, and some of us even have a drink after that run. So I think the return on this investment, not only in health but monetary value, is much more than the $3,000 that we're giving, and the organisers of this event run a very good event. I'm interested to see the course this year. The last uphill climb was a little bit so last year, but the course had a diversion because of the construction of High Street, so I'll be interested to see what they come up with this year. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, and I agree with what Councillor Lowe has said. It is very much also a community event where our communities get together, and it's a celebration also, you know, in the sense of going from one city to the other, and being able to go along our roadways where you've driven the cars all the time and have time to look around and things like that. But it's all voluntary based, and a large number of volunteers that have produced this event, and they have a goal to have I think 10,000 people, I think it's in the future, you know, so they're trying to build their numbers to be a major regional fun run, which, there's not a lot. You hear the city to surfs and things like that, but to have, two communities joining together to raise funds, it's a great credit to our communities.
I've been involved in this event from the word go, and it's just grown so much each year. So many more people are attending. I think that's because it's really accessible. So if it was just a run, I would never even contemplate doing it because I can't run. But because it's really accessible for people walking, people with strollers, people with kids, it's really well attended. In the last 4 years, they've raised over 100 grand each year, which is a phenomenal effort for a community event. And there's really nothing else like this locally. I think maybe, council has been involved in the past couple of years, and maybe we do need to look at something, a different sort of arrangement ongoing, because this will just keep coming up to us. So maybe we can look at a different kind of agreement with them. I'm not sure. And I look forward to running past Councillor Lowe on that steep incline.
How about you, Councillor Quill? Are you going to beat both of them up the hill?
I'll get to that. It's probably not going to surprise anyone that I'm going to vote no to this. We had this discussion last year. City to City is a very successful event. It raised over $107,000 last year for needed health equipment. It's great. It's a real example of the community pulling together. It's conceivable that I'll participate this year. So far I've been thinking about it. So possibly, but I don't expect to pass anyone up the hill if I do. But I don't see why City to City can't pay its own way, given that it raised $107,000, why it can't keep $3,000 out of that money to pay for itself next year instead of coming to council cap in hand. This more so than the previous projects. This one really is raising a heap of money. It's quite capable of being self-running, and it doesn't need to come out for ratepayers' money. It's not our job, and I don't propose to support it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Part of the reason why I asked the questions before the motion was moved, I see a line between, in events like this, I see a line between donating council or ratepayers' funds and contributing ratepayers' funds to council's role and responsibilities in relation to community events such as this. And I consider this to be one of the preeminent, if not the preeminent event that happens in Wodonga and between the two cities. And I think it's absolutely amazing what it achieves. I think it's an excellent method of finding good funding for the health services. But if we're just being asked to make a donation of cash money, which just goes straight into the hospital coffers, then I don't think that's the role of council. But I've heard tonight that this covers the cost of the things that the council provide in relation to the event based on the role of council in normal community events. And in that context, I can support it. But if I were to find or understand, or it were to become a matter of just council making a donation, I wouldn't support it. Thank you, Matt.
Look, I'm in two minds, but I will support it. I think it is as everyone said tonight, a great event. It's one of the best probably events that achieves so much for the community regarding hospital. A lot of people use the hospital, and any extra money that they can get, whichever way they get it, it's pretty important. So, with having said that, I will support it tonight.
Since I'm the only one who's got to have a say yet, I do have two questions, both one to Councillor Mildred and one to Councillor Hall. Everybody else has said if they've done the event or not. Have you participated? I'm putting the pressure on. You done the event, Councillor Mildred? No. Yeah. Rightio. So the answer is no. Councillor Hall? Right. I think we might have to improve on that. We're going to try and get 100% attendance. There's the challenge. There's attendance in the event. Councillors, I'm putting out the challenge. I probably won't beat Councillor Lowe up the hill, but I do participate. Councillors, I just wanted to, I guess, follow on from a couple of comments that Councillor Bennett made around the accessibility. It's actually affordable for families. You see whole families participate, from the teeniest little ones in pushers right the way through to, you know, nan and pop walking with grandkids and family members. It also is an economic driver. It actually drops nearly 5,000 people right in the heart of our town at the finish, who are usually pretty hungry and thirsty at the end of it. So in terms of investing, yes, it is a donation, but it's actually also an investment in our city. And how do you measure social capital? How do you measure that social impact? And truly, councillors, if you haven't participated, I really encourage you, because it is the most wonderful event to be walking in and amongst your own community, and everybody says hello to each other, encourages each other, and it is just, I think, not only iconic, but absolutely epitomises the relationship and symbolises our two cities, one community. I don't think there's anything else that we do that's quite like it. And the other component for me is, if we ran an event like this, it would cost us an awful lot more. And would we achieve the same result when it's not community driven? And I would argue we wouldn't. So I think it's a real investment in our community, and all the people who are involved put it on year after year. They absolutely deserve hats off, because it is a super event. Councillor Lowe, you moved it. Over to you for close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's probably a really good word. I wrote the same one down as well when I was going to echo Councillor Mildren's words and yours, that it's exactly that. It's an investment in our community. It's not a donation, but an investment in our community. And Councillor Watson, you kind of touched on it a bit. It's one of those two cities, one community events. It's participation by both sides of the border, working in collaboration together and showing truly how much we are just one community. And I look forward to coming back to the Hill and waiting for you, Councillor Bennett. So, for the race up. Thank you.
Oh dear, the challenges are on. Training at the ready. Councillors, the motion is there before us. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors, for all your commentary. Item 8.12, speed limit review, various locations. Councillor Watson, you want to move?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move, but with a variation on point 4, to extend the existing permanent 60k speed limit from 900 metres to 1.2 metres, so it goes out past, 1,000, to which, if you look on page of the report, it's item 8.2, and it's, page 90 of 125. So where the blue line finishes, to go further along past Westmont from the age facility.
No, he added 300 metres. So the wording might be, councillor, can I just make a suggestion before you get a seconder? Yes, to there. So to extend the existing permanent 60 kilometre speed limit 1,200 metres to the end of the Westmont development. Are you happy with those words for you as a mover? That gives it real clarity, and you can point to that map as well.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy with that.
Thank you, councillor. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, councillor Lowe. Councillor Watson, would you like to talk to this item?
Look, one of the most important things in our city is to keep people safe, and one of the things that we do with changing speed zones and things is, as our city grows and changes, we need to change speed limits and things like that, and slowing people down isn't a bad thing. You'll still get there really in the same time, but particularly at this aged care facility, Westmont, it is growing. It's got a large number of people there now, and they do actually get out and about, and a request came through from them. I think we missed it earlier, and I wanted to pick it up tonight so that we cover it, and really important. We look after our young in this city. We've also got to look after our elderly.
I'll have to echo echo Councillor Watson's words there. Like I've said before, I don't necessarily believe lowering the speed limit at all times is the correct solution to some problems. But this one, I just want to make 2 points on it, and this one I think is that Westmont is actually, I think it's 2 years ahead of schedule. So I think they're sold out and almost sold out. So it just goes to show on the update. And also, I think it's the Glenwood estate is coming, especially since this photo, that houses and that are popping up. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's quite full already out there. So again, I think it's worthy of note is it's only to the end of the Westmont estate. It's not for the whole of Barranduda Boulevard. So I think we just need to emphasise that point there. Thank you.
All right. I've expressed before my opinion on speed limits generally going down and down. Even though our cars are getting safer, roads arguably safer, but the speed limits keep dropping. It's part of this campaign towards zero, which is presumably towards 0 kilometres an hour. Possibly the next step is going to be having people walking in front of cars waving a stick, flag on a stick. Right. I feel if we need to be dropping speed limits on major arterial links, we've made our stuff up somewhere. I don't really like it, but I'm not going to go against the recommendation. So there we are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had the perhaps misfortune to sit through the Traffic Liaison Committee meetings where this has been considered at great length and where the experts in the field, including police and traffic engineers and the people that deal with the credibility that applies to our traffic laws, I've sat through these meetings and listened to what's been said and debated and argued and had conversations about how all these things fit together. We as council, when it suits, say that, well, our officer class and our experts should be taken account of, but then when it doesn't suit for whatever the reasons, we buck the system and go against it. Well, I guess that's politics. I have listened to the arguments that have been put by the traffic engineers and by the police in terms of the expectations of motorists and how they behave based on the conditions within which the environment they are presented with is, and how they expect the speed limits and things to apply based on the credibility of the system that we've got in place in Victoria. And the argument has been over and over again that what will inevitably happen in this location where we're extending the extra 300 metres is that it'll be a revenue raiser, because we'll have to have somebody there all the time to be out checking the speeds of vehicles, because it's not going to be naturally somewhere where you would expect to be down to 60 k's. We've heard things like people might be entering or exiting the site who perhaps aren't as up to getting up to speed on the road as perhaps others might. I think most of the people that that's been referred to about would be disappointed to hear people say that that's how they drive, because we've got arguments going around the state at the moment about elderly people having to go through licence tests and a whole range of other things. And this sort of thing, you know, making statements like that reinforces those sort of things. And I don't want to take the independence away from anybody. I think if they're capable of driving and they drive to the conditions, etc., then keep the licence. But if we're going to come out and publicly say just because we're getting older we can't drive the same as everybody else, then that's a problem. So for all those reasons, predominantly the credibility of the system, I can't support the resolution. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Look, there's some here I support and some I don't, which makes it quite difficult. At the end of the day, I think, you know, traffic often can dictate speeds. And going forward, I'm going to have to make a decision on it, and it's a hard one for me, but I probably will support it. Thank you.
The more that we create an environment where it's easy and safe to walk and ride, for our people to walk and ride, hopefully the more people will actually walk and ride. I've been working with schools for about 8 years, and in that time, one of the focus areas is getting kids more active. So we've done lots of surveys with parents and kids around the barriers as to why they aren't doing it and why they are doing it. And one of the biggest barriers is parents' perception of safety. Whether or not that's actually what's happening or it's the perception of safety. So in terms of the kids that are riding or walking, there's 3 groups of them. There's one group that just have no other choice because their parents don't have a car, don't have a licence, can't be bothered. So they have to, if they want to get to school, they're going to have to walk or ride. There's another big cohort of people that do it for whole reasons, like want to hang out with their mates, enjoy a bit of freedom, exercise, maybe, like to dilly-dally and whatever. So that's a big cohort of people. And then there's another group that, even though they actually live quite far away, so we're lucky enough in Wodonga that our schools aren't zoned, so you can go to whatever school you want, but they might live out at Barranduda and go to, Catholic college. So there's a concept, and most schools do something like a halfway is okay. So parents might drop them 5 blocks off beforehand so they can still walk and ride. So making sure that area around the school is really safe and easy to navigate is really important if we want to get more kids out and about. And not just kids, everyone in our community.
Thank you, councillors. I am going to support Councillor Watson tonight, and the reason being that if you look at that diagram, because I think the map really tells 1,000 words, extending something 300 metres so that people don't start to accelerate in an area where you have density of entry. So what do I mean by that? There's over 300 residents out there. There's 188 staff, and there's 50-odd contractors every day on that site, on the Westmont site. And there's 211 really living very independently in the village. So if I just look at the staff and the contractors and just the village component, so there's still people mobile who are living in the medium care area, and our average ratio, we had a discussion about this morning, is actually about 14 car movements per household. So I've actually reduced it and said actually only 10. We're actually up to over 5,000 entries and exits at that one point at Westmont. Now, common sense seems to say to me that why would you speed vehicles up when you have that kind of movement? That is aside from the request that we actually had in from Westmont, which was making it safer for their pedestrians to cross. So you add all of those bits together and it seems a bit nonsensical not to extend it that slight bit extra. We're not talking about, going down to 5 kilometres or 0 kilometres. We're talking about, a normal speed that you would see in a city centre where there's driveway access, there's people moving around, both vehicular and both walkers and pedestrians, etc. So in my mind, the evidence is there, i.e. the numbers, the volume, coupled with really the consideration that we could be giving, a large portion of our elderly situated out there to be able to get out and get active. So for me, it's actually a no-brainer. And to really extend it for that small amount means that that isn't the speed up point, it is just post it. So thank you, Councillor Watson, for picking it up and also putting that motion tonight. Councillor Watson, did you have anything for close? Thank you. Councillor's motion is there before us. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Okay, item 8.13 is the late item that had been accepted, and that is 8.13, the intention to enter into a lease at Logic Wodonga Solar Power Proprietary Limited. Councillors, you have those documents there. It's a lengthy resolution and it's on page 8 of 53 of those documents because there is some confidential attachments there to it which are about commercial in confidence. So the motion is there before us on page 8. Can I have somebody move it, please? Thank you. Councillor Lowe, thank you. Councillor Watson, Councillor Lowe.
Unfortunately, Madam Mayor, I've actually misplaced my notice, but I do recall, I won't need the exact numbers, but it's, yeah, thank you. I just need to say a big congratulations to the staff, actually. This is one very attractive lease term, and it's once again Logic proving to be a great investment out there. And I look forward to any submissions that may come back from this notice, and a big congratulations. It's a really good commercial rental. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, my comments are probably more to this, the side of things that is so topical at the moment in both federal and state governments, is that having renewable power, and for the City of Wodonga to have a major input, if successful, is to have solar power in our city and to be down in Logic, which will just be a really great asset for our city.
Okay. So I have a little issue with the fact that this was dropped on us very late, but obviously that's because of the business processes. I don't think it's ideal, and we have been briefed on it in the past, so we knew it was coming, but it's not ideal that we only got it on Saturday afternoon, the actual details. However, that being said, on the scrutiny that we've given it, it looks like a good deal for council. So it's a chance for the ratepayers to get some payback from Logic finally. And so I'm in favour of it.
I'm with the same view as Tim. This item came to council at very short notice. We've limited time given and the limited information provided on the original report given to us, also at short notice. I can now, after today's discussions, give more and being given more information and detail around this lease agreement, I will support the recommendations provided by council officers. But I will say this, as a councillor, it's important for me, and I believe for all councillors, to be diligent when making important decisions such as these. I believe the community expects no less from us. The information provided to us councillors by council is crucial if we are to be fully informed when making a determination at council on the items that come before us. Last minute determinations made with lack of information and detail don't make for good decision making. I have, as I said today, been informed more. Councillor John Watson was right. We have had briefing, but there was detail that was due to still come back to us, and I would have thought that would have hopefully been given to us in time for us to make a determination on it in good time. But I've been provided with information today, and I'm happy to go and support.
Can I just also pass on congratulations to the team? When you get down to finalising and negotiating a huge deal like this, it does take a lot of time, and we have had lots of updates and to get down to the hard nitty-gritty, getting down to the final numbers. Often in a commercial deal, in my role that I do privately, it can happen at the 11th hour. Now, unfortunately, as council, we get a little bit hamstrung because we have quite cumbersome process that we have to legislatively go through, a 223 process. And with commercial deals, the longer you leave them run, the more chance they are of not occurring. And so, while we do get sometimes the fine detail, you know, in fairly swift time, and we are given that and expected in our role to be able to allocate that time. Is it always convenient? No. And is that really difficult? And sometimes does it mean late nights? Yes, absolutely. The overarching question for me is always, is this in the best interest of our community? And this is a great deal, and this is a fantastic initiative that we're going to see delivered to our city. So, Councillor Hall, I loved the questions that you raised today. I think they've gone to add potentially more detail that will be there for prosperity for future generations, future councils, future anybody who needs to know any of that information is now deeply embedded and will be in part of those minutes for anybody to be able to reference in the future as they are commercial in confidence terms. Councillors, it was moved by Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lowe, did you have anything for close?
Nothing, just to echo your words there, Madam Mayor, and sometimes when we're given these reports, as you're saying, it is last minute, and Councillor Hall did the correct thing, and when she wasn't sure and stuff, and asked for more information, and that helped her with her decision. It by no means doesn't mean that the rest of us couldn't have made the decision based on what the information we were given in the first place. As I said today, it's a really good deal. I think if you're used to looking at numbers, you're used to looking at numbers and can work out the evaluation of it. So I look forward to the value add that we've just added to that site for Logic happening and seeing where that leads in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillors, motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, item 9.1. Now, Councillor Hall, you've got two conflicts, 9.1, 9.2. You can actually put both of them together. So if you want to tell what both of us, what they both are, I'll spit that out in a minute, and then you can actually just stay out of the room for both of them rather than coming in and out.
Okay, I have a conflict of interest in item 9.1, the planning report. I have properties that back onto the golf course. This is one of the permits in the item, and also have a conflict of interest in 9.2, the building report, and I also have property that is in the same street as properties listed in the building report.
Item 9.1 is the planning report. The recommendation is there on page 92, but the information's actually tucked in behind that. And those who are familiar in our gallery will notice that there is increased detail at the request of councillors in there. So that recommendation is there on page 92. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Mildren. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Mildren.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting to note some of the things that have been happening around the place. We've got the clubhouse at the golf courses had an approval for use and development of a residential hotel and associated facilities and a wide range of things that go with that, which is augurs well for things into the future in a fairly large way, not least of which could be an attraction to international tourism. No, that'll do. Thank you, Madam.
Just another one I wanted to highlight, which is a new small business going to the CBD, which is a tutoring business that's going to Stanley Street.
I'd probably just like to echo Councillor Milton's words there on the new development going up on the golf course. It's going to be a significant investment, and it probably shows the commercial reality of Wodonga at the moment, not only by the solar farm but also by this hotel, and gives us another top quality accommodation in our centre as well as Quest. So it gives us many options. And as you said, there's tourism opportunities for hotels on golf courses is immense internationally. And no, I'll save that one. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's actually in the next report, is it? Okay, Councillor Mildren, did you have anything extra?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting to note there's been 14 permits for the month, which on my reckoning, it's about 3.5 permits per planner, which is pretty good. I think getting the more information that we've got here makes life easier for councillors in a whole range of different ways, not least of which in my situation is to know whether I've had involvement with any of the players that are involved, which is really good. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Item 9.2 is the building report. Excuse me. Goes on for some. Excuse me. Goes on for some pages. The recommendation is there on page 99. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Bennett. Thanks, Councillor Watson. Councillor Bennett.
It's good to see there is, so Cotton On that's in the plaza, but it's relocating to another place in the plaza, but they're spending $600,000 on that. So great to see an existing business spend that amount of cash.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting to note the change between June and July in terms of the figures. It's also interesting to note that there's been an increase in the percentage of work approved by the council as distinct from the private sector. And it's also interesting to note the changes in permits approved inside and outside of the city. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep, just two things. I want to touch on Councillor Bennett's point of Cotton On. It's really unusual for Cotton On to have two mega stores in such a small footprint, both their square metre size. So again, it touches on that commercial reality of the confidence having in Wodonga at the moment. I did a check with Cotton On. It's actually the first time they've put them so close together nationally. So it's a big tick for Wodonga. The other one was Butcher on the Rise, coming out of White Box Rise, expanding, adding another store. So go Wodonga.
All right, I was just going to say, I've been waiting patiently for my chance to declare a conflict of interest, but it happened last month when I wasn't here. So.
Okay.
Very good.
It is interesting to see Cotton On expand their footprint. I know that they're madly recruiting, which means new jobs for a lot of our young people out there because there's a lot of casual staff. But when you look at the age brackets of our community, 78%, 77% are under the age of 55, it kind of makes sense that we have a larger store here to service our population. My 15-year-old will be very happy. Councillors, the motion is there before us. Any close required? No. Councillors, motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Desperately waiting for it. Thanks, Councillor Hall. Item 9.3 is the Competitive Services Report. Recommendation, you have a conflict. Thank you. Sorry, can you just read that out for us?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My business was previously involved in the Junction Place project, including Richardson Park planning.
Thank you. Interesting. The CEO and I just had a comment that probably that planning was done when Richardson Park was actually in the other location in Junction Place. Councillors, the recommendation is there on page 102. Can I have someone move? Thank you, Councillor Watson. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Watson.
Oh, Madam Mayor, you've mentioned Richardson Park, but it's one of my sort of passions is that it's been in limbo for some time, and for the residents of our great city, there are actually trucks and tractors and diggers there at the moment as we speak. So hopefully it will be completed for Christmas, weather permitting, as the engineer would say to me. But it's just really great to see that it's underway and that will really clean up that precinct there and to make it so attractive for the businesses that are there in the old railway station. So it is really exciting times in our city to have something going to be completed close to Christmas.
Other councillors, any comments? No. Councillor Watson, nothing to close. Councillor's motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Welcome back, Councillor Mildren. Item 9.4 is Two Cities, One Community Action Plan Progress Report. The recommendation is there on page 105. Do I have one of our committee members want to move that? Good on you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Watson, any comments?
Oh, Madam Mayor, probably today the opening of the extensions of the Albury Wodonga Airport has now got a large sign up there welcoming people to Albury and Wodonga. And I think that's just one of the great things that this Two Cities, One Community is starting to build speed and to show us that we can work together as two cities for the greater benefit of our communities.
I'll probably just touch again on the joint aquatics contract, again showing value to both communities, or both sides of the border, I should say, in the one community, especially the one around only needing one membership to swim in all pools now, which is be great for the water polo players and the swimmers. Thank you.
Councillors, can I just say thank you to the continued work from both the staff but also the committee that just keeps ploughing through the action items. I know that we have got a media release coming out later this week with another item being ticked off, and we all had the email about that today. But, you'll see things like the signage go up on the entry points to our two cities that really represent what it is. So I think symbolically we saw that sign today, but we continue to work and continue to have very good traction with government in terms of going forward and working with our businesses, but also working in a far more efficient and effective manner with our cousins over the river. Back to you, Councillor Watson, anything for close?
Madam, probably one other comment is that Gateway Master Planning is well underway, and we as two councils got together with some planning issues on that and some discussion. So it really is starting to show that two cities can work together to bring some great projects together. So hopefully the Gateway Island planning, because they've done their planning on their side of the river, that it'll merge together to have a great asset for both our cities.
Well said, Councillor Watson. Councillor's motion is there before us. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. Item 10.1 is assemblies of councillors. It is for information only. Item 10.2 is a status report on council meeting resolutions. And do we need to receive this? It's normally for information only.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillors, that recommendation is there to read before you. I do know that Councillor Hall and Councillor Quilty are about to undergo the process for the recruitment of the rating strategy. So, councillors, I need a mover and a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Is there any comments? Nope. You've got a bit of work ahead of you. Councillors, any other comments? Nope. Motion is put. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried. And it moves us to no notices of motion, no petitions, nothing for council seal or urgent business. Is there any questions? No. There is no confidential business and no urgent confidential business. So that just leaves me to close the meeting. But don't all run away because I've got the nicest bit of the night to now undertake. Officially close the meeting and look forward to seeing you all in the gallery again on Monday the 17th of September. And if you'd now